Hey everybody, Steve Laveaga, our Rise Up podcast. I am so excited for my guest. I've known Stevie Hawks going on about 20 years. He is absolutely one of the biggest thinkers in real estate. By the way, this is going to be controversial. This is going to be funny. We're going to argue, disagree, agree. But I'll tell you what, nobody has more respect for this man than I do. I've watched what he's done. And you know what? He stood the test of time. He has the scar tissue of resiliency. He's also one of the smartest humans I know in the space. Mr. Hawks, how are you, brother?
Thanks, man. I appreciate it. Think pretty good.
All right, now let's get right into it. So he sent me a list. I was talking about tactics, strategy. He goes, no, man, lawsuits, TCPA. Let's go to commission. I'm like, oh, here we go. So as my guest and my brother, where do you want to start? What do you want to get into?
Well, let's start about, where do you want to start? I think the biggest thing that happened last week, the last 2 weeks, that nobody's talking about, except the elite, right, is the commission lawsuit that was settled. That's big. And, we're talking about, with Stefan Swapano.
There's his letter.
Yeah, I mean, when he did the danger report.
Yeah.
And if NAR would have listened and done what he recommended in the danger report, we wouldn't be in the situation we're in right now.
Exactly. So tell people that don't know what that is and what happened in the last 2 weeks that now has kind of created precedent, which we talked about earlier, which is it's coming. This whole commission compression, you have to price only issue in the absence of value is coming. Walk us through what that is.
So, about 2 weeks ago, the PIN MLS settled with an antitrust lawsuit for $3 million. And it was in Inman News. You could see the headline was MLS did some of the franchisors. They basically separate. So the MLS paid $3 million to get out of the lawsuit and let the franchises to fight on their own, cut the deal. So $3 million goes to the sellers to continue the lawsuit.
Right.
The reason why that is such a huge firestorm that's been created is because before that, it was all talk. There was no precedent. There was
now, they were on the same side, right? The franchisors, the MLSs were battling against this lawsuit. And now you've got a defection that said, okay, hey, I'm out. I'll pay this, but I'm out of this thing. Leave me alone. Is that
the MLS has said, hey, you know what? We're out. You're on your own. And basically should be franchises on their own. And the MLSs can also be brought in as witnesses against the franchisors in that trial. The big one is obviously next. There's a big one coming in October, right? That's going to have a good indication of what will happen with the big one. The big one is 2024.
Yeah.
That's the big daddy one.
That's the group that did big tobacco, and now they're on the real estate bandwagon fight. That's that one?
Correct.
I want to make sure this is important, too. Kind of like any market. Everything that happens will be about adaptation, implementation, change, pivot. That's life. Though none of this, in my opinion, affects our elite real estate practitioners who've been dealing with markets their whole life. But to your point, if you have to justify your own commission to a buyer, you better have a really good value proposition. You'll be able to add value.
Well, yeah, it impacts the elite and it impacts teams. And I'm guilty as myself. The past 20 years, I could basically hire anybody. I didn't have to have the highest quality buyer's agent because I knew that they were going to make a fixed amount based on the MLS.
And you could bring leads, bring enough at bats.
Yeah. And hey, it goes without saying. I did a video on this, 4 or 5 years ago, recruiting video on people coming in. If someone is in the business 1 day or 30 years, they're getting paid the same amount. What other industry is like that?
None.
And the MLS allowed us to do that, right? So a lot of the business models, a lot of our teams, we've done that to where, hey, we can bring people in and we know that they're going to get paid that amount, right? There's no negotiating. Like on a listing side, you go out to a listing, you got to negotiate with the seller. You got to bring value, right? Yeah. Buyer's agent, boom. The buyers just use the first person they talk to. That's there's a Realtor.com.
74%.
74% of the buyers just use the first buyer's agent they use. Why? Because it was perceived as free.
Correct.
Well, when it's free, I don't care. We're all the same, right? Just whoever's there.
Yeah.
Speed,
I can open any door. I can open any door in Nevada. Let me know. I can open a door for you.
Right. Speed to lead. And so with this case, now we have a precedent saying, hey, you know what? Maybe that wasn't right after all. And then 2 weeks after that, the second largest MLS, Bright MLS, said, you know what? We don't have to offer compensation anymore in MLS either. So now you get this letter that every realtor should be reading right now, and and this is from Stefan Swapano.
This is why I'm drinking tequila, by the way. Keep going, Steve.
He was the author of the NAR Danger Report. So this guy isn't just some random guy. If you don't know who he is, you need to Google it. T360 is the company. They're the ones that
Probably the most foreknown data source in real estate in the United States.
Oh, and not only that, I'm sure he's going to be an expert witness in both of things. In fact, the danger report is part of the trial in October for sure, and I believe it's also part of the trial in a lawsuit in October too. Because in the danger report, these attorneys are going to go, hey, why didn't you institute what he recommended in 2015? So this guy, this company is one, as you know, the leading in that. And what he said after this, it's 2 pages. Everybody should get it. NAR should immediately pass a mandatory rule to MLS policy and code of ethics that requires buyer's broker to have signed buyer-broker agreements that clearly spell out compensation. And it goes on that we need to, brokerages should as soon as possible require required executed buyer-broker agreements explaining to the buyers why they need to pay the buyer, why the buyer-broker is getting paid. This is earthquake, seismic, foundation.
Let's unpack this a little bit. Here's the reality, and this has got to get in our heads as real estate practitioners and partners and business owners. Price is only an issue in the absence of value. You're going to have to be able to articulate your value in an entirely different way. Same way Steve mentioned, no other entity was it guaranteed, regardless of experience, negotiating skill, or knowledge, you're going to get paid the same, right? So now, commission compression, which is real, it has been happening in bits and pieces, especially in Vegas. You know this, and you're allowed to lead in that piece. You're going to have to find other ways to add value such that what makes you better and different than the people you compete with. And here's the other thing, Steve. Let's just talk about, let's be really raw. What does this do to, we've got 1.7 million realtors, Vegas, we've got 79,000 in Maricopa County, you've got 18,000 here. Average agent does, 2.1 deals. What does this do to folks that have kind of been, Vegas, like Phoenix, you got a lot of dabblers, right? I'm working at a casino, I'm driving an Uber, I do a little bit of homes, it's been a way people made a living, which is great. What happens to that fringe group now?
Well, yeah, the statistic we were talking about was 30% of the business was done by agents. They did 1 to 5, right?
Yes.
So that's hundreds of thousands, that's millions of transactions nationwide. Yeah. So what this does is that pretty much takes that business away from them. In fact, another research report stated that there's too many agents and that it hurts the consumer because of all these agents, right? And they're not talking about us full-timers, us 8%. 8% do what? How much of business?
8% do 92% of the business.
So 8% do 92% of the business. Well, it should be much higher, right?
Truthfully,
okay? It should be much higher. So what these research and reports are saying is, why are there so many agents that are unknowledgeable getting paid the same amount of money as someone that has experience and knowledgeable? Now, we talk about commission compression, right? Well, that's only half true. Commission has not gone down over the last 10 years. Would you agree with that?
Well, I think it depends market by market.
No.
Some markets, but yeah.
All the statistics say that every market commissions have come down, right?
Yes.
That's half true because the buyer's agent's commission has not come down.
Well said.
Okay?
Well said.
The only side of the commission that's come down is what side?
Listing side.
The listing side. Why did the listing side come down?
Because you had people that went in at 1% or at a speed, and they added enough value. The consumer said, "Oh, that works for me." Then you have Redfin offering points back on the side. So listing, and plus you have to negotiate your listing every time you walk in that door.
That's it right there. That's the answer right there. Because the listing agent is the only agent on the side of the commission that needed to negotiate the commission, right? Correct. So now we're going to see the buyer side drop. Because the buyer's agents are going to have to say, here's my value. Here's what I'm doing. And how much do you think that these MLS policies and MS rules have
protected?
No. What do you think the charge is at? Like the attorneys are saying, hey, they pay too much commission because of these MLS policies, because of the antitrust laws. What do you think that dollar figure is? What do you think that amount is on percentage-wise?
Oh, God. If you wanted to go back...
Percentage-wise, not the dollar, because that's too hard.
Okay.
The percentage-wise.
1.5, maybe 2.
Yeah, about 30% on each side. How do we know that?
Well, that's what the listing is down. If you take listing commission, you do the whole thing over, you're at, instead of being at 3, you're at 2.2, 2.1, 2.0, 2.4, depending on where you are.
Right. Another way we know how much it's going to impact the buyers is because any agent in the country will do whatever it takes to get a lead source or a lead referral source and pay them
35, 40%, no problem.
There you go. So what is that 30, 35% doing? What is it going to, how is that helping the consumer? Is that 35? Where's that 35% for? For giving out a lead? Now, how is that possible? Because of MLS policies, because it's not even keel. So when you take away, I mean, what other industry can you say, here's a referral, here's a lead, and here's 35%? And the consumer could access that data themselves through this database over here, but the consumer doesn't have access to that database, right? So they got to go to this database. But when they go to this database, which is a carbon copy of this database, you got to pay 33% more.
Yeah. Let me ask you this, Steve. Aggregators, Zillow, Realtor.com, what happens to them if the buyer's not going to negotiate their own commission?
Most of the lead, okay, so Zillow, Realtor.com, or Redfin, they're up here.
Yeah.
The rest of these lead generation companies, they're done. Because there's no need for them.
But tequila.
There's no need for them because where are they going to get the 30%? Now when they get a lead, they're going to send their agent out there and their agent's going to say, well, I got to charge you 2.5%. Well, no. I've talked to 10 realtors and they're 1.5%, 2%. Well, yeah, but I got to pay a referral to this company. Well, that's not my problem. That's not my problem. That's your problem.
See, here's what's going to happen. You're going to look at this, and I'm not sure, and Steve and I have a history of likable disagreements. I'm not sure about the aggregator side. I think the aggregator side can double down and get to the consumer first. Now, they won't get to the consumer first over our elite teams or people like yourself that run businesses with investment, marketing, practices, ROI dollars. But they will have the biggest war chest to go pick fights, and they will pick fights. The question is, can they get that consumer to believe, I can get you a better experience and a better realtor at this price than someone can going direct, right? And by the way, this happens in every business. You've got distributors, computers, right? Some people that do software, people that do copiers. You've got Toshiba, all going direct. And then you've got them having all these resellers who also go to the consumer. They don't care who wins. Let the best man win, right?
But it's about the same cost.
Yes.
It's the same cost.
Correct.
There's people go down. So to your point, remember, there's the aggregators that aren't the three big dash, right?
Bigs, yeah.
So three bigs, that's a different story. There'll be one left, right? But here's what we were talking about. We forgot. The MLS just disappears. NAR just disappears.
Yeah, that's true.
Right?
Where does that end up?
We didn't talk about that.
Where does that end up?
Right. So now, how is Zillow needs realtors, right?
Yes.
NAR has realtors. NAR becomes a competitor with Zillow. Now what?
How are they competing? What do you mean?
Well, right now they're not.
Yeah. Right now.
In the future, when this comes into play, if it does come into play, now NAR is a database, right? And they make money off realtors. Well,
subscription fees, MLS, you're right. $9.99 a month and get access to my MLS. Okay.
Correct. Zillow doesn't need 1.5 million realtors. Zillow just needs 200,000. But Zillow needs the feeds, right? Zillow needs this. So now NAR, after all these lawsuits are over and NAR could say, hey, you know what? We've never did a national MLS. But now we have to. Sorry, MLSs. We got to do a national MLS because we got to compete with these guys. And now consumers, you can go direct. You can go straight to NAR's direct website and not pay all that money.
Do you think that's going to happen?
They're not going to have a choice if this goes through. It might be 3, 5, 10 years, but This is what's going on. And if you look across the country, a lot of analysts say this, and I've also been talking with one of the top hedge fund research companies, and they were talking with me, I sent an NDA, about a $1 billion acquisition. And I gave them the information on my opinion, and I think it halted a big transaction that would have happened because guess what? If this happens, these other business models with this information, they're all built on these MLS firewalls, right? I can't have the same access to MLS as these companies or the MLS. Like for right now, Redfin has coming soon listings, but I don't have coming soon listings on my website.
Yeah.
And the MLS doesn't allow that. So there's a lot of MLS firewalls that protect, like Listing Hub, right? We're trying to get off track, but Listing Hub, if I want to get Listing Hub, I got to follow certain rules to get that feed, that data.
Right.
Well, NAR can just say, hey, you know what? Here's the data. You guys go get them. Now I can compete with these other sites because guess what? Now stevehawks.com has
every listing in America.
Exactly. Why is someone going to go to my website, especially in Vegas? We're at a huge disadvantage, right? Yeah. Because 60% there's no
coming out of it. Yeah.
So why am I going to go to Steve's website when I can just look at my house here in California and in Nevada on one site? I can't do that. Oh, and then people say, oh, you can't do that. Oh, I can do that for,
25,000 a month, get listing fee.
Then it's still not the direct fee. Right?
Yeah, no. It's just your laid secondary fee, correct. But
and these is what these attorneys are bringing up. These are firewalls that prevent competition because now.
Well, they want 17,000 realtors paying $9.99 as an MLS.
That's right. That's right.
Now, you and I are saying something different. We think that 70,000 could end up being 2,200.
If this all goes through, without a doubt, we already know we don't need 1.7 million realtors because Mike Ferry's super retreat, they said that 62% haven't done a deal in the last 12 months. And like we talked about, NAR is one of the most powerful, not just lobbying, but marketing company. Because look how many people are getting to be realtors.
They're Netflix. They're a gym. You told me they're a gym, right there. Yeah. 20,000 people sign up, 2,000 people go to the gym a month.
Right. And that's why a lot of these big brokerages, what do? They have breakfasts and they have events and they don't have training anymore. I mean, how many of these big brokerages have good training? No, they send you to Mike Ferry, they send you to Tom Ferry, they send you to
good ones do.
They send you to you, right? No, the good ones really don't have the kind of training that we used to back in the.
Oh no. There was a time when the broker was a training hub for all of real estate.
Yes.
Now you've got groups like I'm a big KW fan for this. They've stayed in being a training, teaching model group, right? And this is going to be the truth, right? In the end of the day, if something's going to happen and change it, we're not sure. Does it go this far? But there's going to be a place where the consumer is going to get to choose who they work with and what they pay. That is coming. Now, it's been on the listing side forever, right? Some people like yourself.
For about 15 years, it's been on the listing side. For about 10 years.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, when did you start it in Vegas?
10 years ago.
Okay. And I would say probably, again, as the entrepreneur and the first to market advantage you had, you went and did this, and then you created a bunch of folks that have come behind you in different circles because of your success, which is great, right? And the truth is, the consumer won. Now, they don't have to do that. They can go pay their sister 3% or their friend. If they think their 3% is going to get them more value on a price, go ahead.
Well, one of the reasons why I started it, there were several reasons. One of them was during that time, there was very little equity. We were coming.
Right.
I had a bunch of short sales, and I'm like, you know what? Just cut the commission and close these things, right? So we all cut the commission, closed all these short sales. And then I realized, wow, there's 100,000 houses in Vegas that have less than 10% equity. They can't sell their house for 5 or 6%. Here, let's do this. Whoa, the phone blew up.
Yeah.
So I was the only one doing it because I hit a niche that nobody was helping. Right. And then it just snowballed from there. Well, back in 2009, 2008, 2007, it wasn't like that.
No.
It was based on relationships, right?
Correct.
So the other thing that I found out about doing the 1% listing is we were losing so many people to friends and family. So I'm at the table, I'm talking to these people like, hey, you know what? No matter what these coaches say, okay, about, tell them how much better you are, blah, 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 blah. Well, that's great, but NAR has done such a great job of making realtors a commodity that it's hard to get over that hump anymore, right?
Yes.
You can, but it's hard, right? And this is the hardest hump up. Yeah, you know what? We don't mind paying the extra $4 or $5 grand, especially if they have a lot of equity. If they have a lot of equity,
they'll pay their friend, they'll pay their relationship.
Yeah, because you know what? I got to see
my
family.
150. That helped me out back in the day. Yeah,
right. But so I said, okay, you know what? Use your family, use your friend. Tell them to do this. If they can't do it, they can't be mad at you because you said you would use them if they match this, right? They'd call the people. Their brokers wouldn't let them. I knew this.
Yeah, so here.
So I'm like, yeah. And then they go, okay. And then they'd sign right there because they're friends and family. And so that's how powerful the friends and family was, right?
Yeah.
And that's what we're dealing with right now. The problem is there's so many friends and family now that those sellers and those buyers, they don't call the good agents. They don't even call them. So we're not competing against these poor agents, right? Because in order to compete, I have to have an opportunity to debate and say why I'm better. But I don't get that opportunity to debate. So if you're not debating on which agent is better, you're not competing against them.
Now, let's unpack this. You might end up at 74% of the time that they were the first they talk to. I think now, with this, if that goes through, that number will change.
Oh, wait.
Because now people are going to go, well, hold on a second. I get to choose. It's not free. It's not part of the seller's problem. It's now my problem. You're going to see a different discussion. Okay, and also remember this. Real estate, the only thing you can absolutely count on, as you know, especially in Vegas, like Phoenix, every goofhead in the world comes here to try, right? Is change. This is going to change. Now, doesn't mean people have been trying to get rid of realtors my entire career. There's no chance, right? At the end of the day, great real estate practitioners will be here forever and always. Fact. Now, the ones willing to adopt, adapt, pivot, and then dive into it, which is what I've always loved about you. You have your opinion, but you also say, I play the game I'm given, right? I think it's going here, but as long as it's here, I'm going to dive into this.
Correct, 100%.
When it moves here, which I think it might, well, I'm going to dive into this.
Right.
This is what I love about you. So many guys get stuck in there. Nope, this is how I do it, how I've always done it. And those guys, I hate to say it, a lot of them are my friends. We've watched them just do this in their business over time. How many guys we know 10 years ago, they were the biggest, baddest realtor on the planet out here, and now they're lucky to do 15, 20 deals a year.
Right. All right.
Fact. So, all right. So now,
well, a good indication that recently happened is we went from in 2009, 2010. Before that, we had a regular market. It was the greatest real estate market ever because that's, hey, Steve, I need a house, blah, blah, blah. And everyone was a realtor. And then 2009, 2010 happened, 2010. And that's when Zillow started. And I was paying Zillow a little money and making a killing.
Yeah.
New
ROI, yes, sir. You were in first, like you always are.
I had a friend that was paying 10 grand for Zillow and making over 150 grand in Vegas when the houses were 150,000.
Yeah.
Okay. And that's how it changed, right? I mean, if you're still trying to do that, it's impossible. I had a lot of REOs. Well, if I'm still trying to call the banks to get REOs, I'm not gonna. It's not gonna work.
No.
Right. So no matter
0-2 inventory. No.
Yeah. So no matter how many cold calls I make, no matter what I do, there's no REO. So why am I gonna do that still? I'm not. Yeah. Some people still try. And today it's the same thing. Most agents have perfect aim, but it's the wrong target. And that is going on right now. That is what's going on right now. They got perfect aim. They're doing everything that worked 2 or 3, 4 years ago. The cold calling, we can talk about that later. The cold calling, that's another big change. I think that's a little...
The TCPA is coming.
Yeah.
I talked to Gary Keller. He made a great point to me. He says this is the single biggest challenge / change in real estate will be how TCPA is done and managed. Because, and by the way, we all believe the consumer should be protected. We just want to know what the rules are, right? Just what are the rules? And what you find is it gets arbitrary, but and talking to Gary, I know it's important to him that our agents follow a process that goes that way, and you've been doing that a long time. Opt-in marketing is going to have to be a thing. You have to prove that this person opted in, knows he's going to be called, acknowledged it, said yes, which is, again, where the aggregators, I think, have an advantage because they have a pretty good way in which that consumer acknowledges I'm going to be called. All right, be the contrary,
hey,
do it.
To a point, but they're getting in trouble now, too.
Yeah?
Because guess what? There's one thing about the do not call list, and there's another thing about harassment.
Yeah.
I said you could call me, not harass me.
Well, good point.
You said you were going to call me. I got 5 agents calling me. I got 5 agents calling me 3 times a day. I got 5 agents texting me 3 times a day. And I got 5 agents emailing me 3 times a day. Not day 1, day 2, day 3. Oh, I'm in the clear. Cool. Guess what? Day 10, it starts up again. Because we're all trained to do the same thing. Now, it's not even about...
There's a fire, yeah.
And then the 30 days, right?
Yeah.
And then the biggest problem is expireds. What the hell? These brokers need to... Look, there's a brokerage out here that has 200 agents calling all these expireds. Well, guess what? Hi, I'm from so-and-so company. Why do you guys keep on calling me? Click. They need to have one agent from that brokerage call that house. That's it. I had a listing that they were fixing the pool. Took it off just temporarily with John Conditional, right? So you're not supposed to call, right? But there's too many dumb agents out there don't realize. And just after that, in the first 45 minutes, the guy got 70 calls.
Oh, I know.
I've had clients that had to change their phone numbers because the calls wouldn't stop. Not because their house expired.
No.
But because the people they sold it to 3 to 4 years later, their house expired. Because their phone number is still attached to that house when you get these, information that are attached to the house. So they had to change their number. Then these agents are calling people at work. It's not just a do not call list, it's harassment. And now these agents, and now when people are going, hey, how do I stop this? Well, now when you Google that, it shows that, people are getting paid millions of dollars. So now they're calling the attorney and the template's already out there.
Yes, sir.
And what's happening is even agents that follow the rules, if you're the unlucky person, they click, boom. And if you're working for a company where you have, let's say you're doing it right, but you're
one of 20 agents doing it.
That's right. And you're the 15th. And they go, I'm sick of this company. Boom. And you get nailed. Yeah. I have one of my friends going through that right now because they were doing everything right. But their company, the name of that company was doing it so much that she got nailed.
It's I love it because it's exciting to me. Because again, I are blessed. We get to work with the top 1 to 3% of the folks in the nation like yourself who always will able to pivot, adopt, adapt, right? And so the commission piece, and the thing is, COVID delayed all of this a couple of years, didn't it?
Correct.
This would have been, but this was on track much faster until 2020 March came around, right?
Correct. The courts were shut down.
Yeah, that's almost a year and a half, 2 years, right? What's our date? Right now, if you're looking at something, what are you reading? What are you looking at to kind of see the lay of the land? Because you're always first to market, first to advantage. What's that feel like?
So the first one is in October of this year, and then the second one is sometime in 2024. Maybe the first quarter, but most likely summer or fall of 2024.
So this thing is a year away from knowing where the heck we're at.
Well, the one in Missouri, I think it's Missouri, but the one in October is going to give us a good indication.
Because you already said that's what's happening. You're getting, when these MLSs made that choice, now you have precedent.
Well, yeah, this emergency letter came out after that MLS said, you know what, we're looking at everything, and I know what they're looking at. I know exactly what they're.
Are you an expert witness, man?
No, I don't know about that, but
you're good.
But I know what they're looking at, and I know what the MLS's policies were doing. And when they were doing some of these stuff that they're accusing them of, the realtors that made the decisions, they were arrogant, thinking, "Oh yeah, this is our information. We can do what we want with it." No, you cannot. AT&T learned that. Remember the long distance, all these long distance polls, right? AT&T said, we can do what we want. We built it. We did it.
And the bells came in, and they had said no.
And then the government said no. Well, at first, this was the first solution. The first solution was AT&T goes, okay, you know what? We'll let you use our lines. We're sorry. You can use our lines. Okay? This will sound familiar. You can use our lines. So that did for like a year or two. But what was happening, they were only letting him use the lines during like 1:30 at night, 2 o'clock. Okay, so they weren't giving him
selective.
They weren't giving him full access.
Yeah.
What does that sound like?
Sounds a little bit like
not giving all the full information, not giving the full data, right? Oh, you can have it, but not this, not that, not that.
Not during the times we need it. Not during the best times of the day.
Yeah, and not all the information to get that buyer to commit.
Sounds like you're close to being a little fraudulent. That's what it sounds like.
Well, it
misrepresenting.
That's how there's other precedents to that they were using. But now with that one MLS settling that and Bright saying, hey, we're going to change it too. In my opinion, I don't think you should have made any changes until after the trial. Because if you make changes before that, you're admitting you did something wrong. Yeah. So including our local MLS changed our listing agreement. That was a bad idea. And they did a video on why they did it. I'm like, you don't change stuff. And they gave the reason why they did it. I'm like, you don't say that before the trial. You do that after. Because if you change something that you've been doing before, saying, hey, we're changing this, why are you changing it?
Could be seen as an admission of guilt.
Well, in the video, they did admit that it was wrong, which I was surprised.
All right. We got a couple minutes left. So as you look around, right, as you look at the landscape here, you run one of the biggest businesses in the United States, okay? What are you doing to prepare for this? Give me 2 or 3 tactic strategies you're thinking about, even though you're not moving yet to adoption, but I can tell with you've already got I see this working, right? You're already thinking about where do I need to be going? So if these things happen, what 2 or 3 things are you going to do right away that'll put you a first to market ahead of the game advantage?
First of all, we're going to have the agents start practicing the buyer's broker agreement. I've never used a buyer broker agreement because I didn't need to because I brought value. Yeah. Right? And even when this goes in, and else they force it to, I still won't. I'll just tell them, hey, this is what you want. This is what I'll charge. But I'm going to start, we've already started having the buyer's agents practice. And then if they get pulled back, okay, no problem. Don't lose the buyer right now, right? Yeah. Just practice. Because after, you want to get into the swing of things. Because what happened to me.
They don't have to sign a buyer broker agreement, is what you're saying.
Right now, no, you don't have to. And you don't push it. And guess what? But here we were talking about before. So let's say I get a lead from Realtor.com and I meet the people at the house, right? Because you meet the people at the house, right?
Lots of times you do.
Yeah, you just meet them at the house. And so now I'm going to have them sign a buyer broker agreement? What's the chances of them signing with me? 50-50 maybe? I don't care how good I am. I'll do this. Oh, hey, man, I just came here. I don't want to do a contract. I barely met you, right? That's what people are going to try and teach. I'm sorry, that's not going to work. It's going to work once in a while, but it's not going to work.
You're going to need really good realtors. You're going to need really good contract negotiator.
Even really good realtors. I just met you 5 minutes ago. Can you sign this with me? Yeah. Hey, it's the same thing as an open house. Hey, come to an open house. Okay, can you sign this with me? No, I'm just looking at the house, man. Well, a lot of these aggregators have created 24-hour open houses, right? So you call, it's just like an open house. So that's that part.
So you're going to start practicing this because you
practice it right now on agents that on the newer agents, right? Hey, the days of me bringing in 19-year-old, 20-year-olds and making $200,000 or $300,000 the first 12 months, 24 months. With this, it's going to be a lot more difficult, right?
Agreed.
Because, I mean, I got several stories in the last 10 years of people coming in and making a ton of money.
You did that. You would bring people in, bring lead flow to them, teach them a little bit about objection handling, and a number of them you've spawned into big agents. Are now big agents, some in the program doing that. But
right.
you this is one of the reasons why you're so respected. You're kind of the godfather of that. A lot of your guys are spread up all over the place that are winning.
Right. I've been doing it 25 years.
I love it.
I got and the best thing to see.
Started when you were 10, by the way. Look great. Okay, so I love that practicing. Yeah. Second, what's the next thing?
Second, you're going to start seeing me. I'm going to start a new listing program that's never been done before, where we're going to start implementing some of the things that Bright is doing and some of these MLS is doing. We're going to take a listing, and I'm going to tell the sellers, the sellers, you can pay the buyer's agent based on their level of experience and based on their level of knowledge. So when they send an offer over to me, and I go, look, this guy didn't do this. I would offer them this. Buyer's agent, send over your resume. So the seller's going to see.
Based on how good the offer is, how thorough it is, how complete it is, who the agent's background is, you're actually going to make them compete for the opportunity. Exactly.
And that's what this is going to. So we're going to implement that right away. So now sellers can say, hey, why am I paying, this commission for, ask any realtor, how many times on the other side of the transaction you're doing half the work, right?
Oh, yeah.
So now if I'm going to do half the work, now I can be compensated for that.
Our agent's carrying a lot of time.
If I'm the one calling the buyer's loan officer and getting all the information, now I'm going to get paid for that work. Now, I love that. This is great. If you're the 8% of realtors, your income's going to go up, okay? And what's the precedent for that? Well, I'll tell you what the precedent is for that. Loan officers in 2005, yes, I kid you not, loan officers out here in Vegas were making $40,000 to $50,000 a deal. Many times on a $400,000 house, that's 10 points. And there was about 30,000 loan officers, okay?
Everybody was a loan.
Yeah, and you could do it.
Same in Phoenix.
Yeah, and they were making 5 to 10% a deal. Fast forward to 29, because the loan officers got blamed for all that, one of them, right? And so what they did, they made it super hard to be a loan officer.
Everybody got licensed.
That's right.
You had to transparently show your commission. Nobody could make more than this. You had to say that. All of that became transparent.
That's right. And every single one of my friends, not some, not 98, not 99, 100% of my friends that did loans made more money in 2011, 2012, 2013, 2014, all the way up to 2022, more than they ever did back then. Why? Ask them all. They weren't losing deals to mom, brother, sister, and all that. And guess what? The loan officer quality today is 100 times better than 2005. 100 times better. No exaggeration. And they were making more. Obviously now with the transactions down, but they were making more money in that. They made more money in those 10 years, each that single year, than they ever did. So they had like 4 or 5 better years.
Systems, models, staffing talent, coaching, training. It always gets back to the same thing, okay? I love that. One more thing you're going to be doing. I love that. Seller agreement. Train your buyers to start having this discussion, regardless that it's not needed yet today, but you believe it's coming. What's one other thing you're going to do? Every
realtor should get their lending license today, right now. I did it 7 years ago because of the loan modifications. And about 3 years ago, we told agents, go get your mortgage license right now. And loan officers, get your real estate license. Why? Because something like this is coming, right? And now I can be more competitive on my buyer's agreement because I can make money on the loan. And I also said 3 years ago, and people said I was crazy, that, loan officers, you can't do FHA, can't do FHA. Now that's going to change. The government wants to bring down the cost of buying homes. And how do you do that? You wrap everything into one. And guess what happened last December? Now you as a realtor can do FHA loans and be the loan officer on a transaction.
The other thing I'll say,
just ways.
You should, I love that. Also, be in title. Our realtors like yourself that are in title, we've got over 400 now across the U.S., over 30 different companies running. Title is something you should be able to generate an end-to-end experience, especially now. You're going to need it more than ever. And you monetize that without adding staff. You don't have compliance risk. You don't have fiduciary risk. All you have is don't be a Ponzi scheme. Yeah. Everything else, and you do the same exact thing you were doing before and actually generating income. These are all things that will become more important in the future, not less.
And I think the government is going to push that also because it brings it down. Wait a minute. So if the realtor can get paid a little bit on this title that they weren't getting before, and that money before is going to reps and all that stuff, now guess what? The agent can do a better buyer's broker agreement because they're going to make money elsewhere.
Overall, the consumer's cost to purchase transactions is going to go down. Smart realtors can actually have their cost per unit actually go up.
So if you don't have an MSA, you're at a disadvantage, or a JV.
How to JV? MSAs, you can either rent or own. I'm an own guy.
That's right.
You want to own, you want to rent. I love you, man. Fantastic.
Cool. Excellent.
Great.
Good one.
Appreciate it.
Yeah.
Rise up.